Hello, my name is Aina. I'm a filmmaker and a realtor currently in South Africa. And today we're going to be talking to one of the top 5 realtors in South Africa. His name is Mr. TTMbha. So if you're interested in buying properties, or you're interested in investing in real estate, or you plan on buying your apartment very soon, you should definitely watch this video. So now let's give him a call and jump right into the video. This is water and lemon, by the way.
Yo, what's up, my man?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you doing now?
All right, man. Let me just bring it closer. Please don't see it. All right, is it fine? You can see me, right?
I can see you now.
All right, let's rock it. Let's rock it, brother.
Generally, what has your experience been so far in doing real estate in South Africa, generally, for people who are actually watching?
So obviously, real estate in South Africa is obviously an exciting space to be in. It's a very tough space to operate in. As you can imagine, most real estate agents get paid commission. So you only get paid once the property is registered. And right now, what's happening with the lockdown is that most of us can't do any viewings because we're not allowed to be out there and be accessing people's homes. But at the end of the day, the important thing is to try and be creative about doing business. Like I said earlier on, being smart about doing virtual tours are obviously going to be the in thing now because of the social distancing. But I mean, it's exciting as well because the interest rates have gone down, which means it's a great market for a lot of buyers. They can go into the market at lower interest rates, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time. We are in a buyer's market now, so this is the right time to buy property.
What are the barriers to entry for a foreigner to buy property in South Africa?
Generally, the biggest barrier to entry for buying property in South Africa for a foreigner is you need to have cash, because a lot of banks don't easily give out credits to foreigners, unless, of course, if you are buying as a company and you've got a history in terms of doing business in South Africa. So they'll look at your financials and all of that. But as an individual, I've done a lot of transactions, especially with a lot of Nigerian buyers. And the advantage with them is that they buy cash. So when they buy cash, there's not much barrier to entry there, because cash is king in any country. But a lot of guys that have come to try and buy properties using the banking system have struggled, because the credit lending system in South Africa is quite stringent, especially if you're not South African. It's not to say it's not possible, it doesn't happen, but the paperwork that is required is so cumbersome that by the time you get to the 4th week of the process, you burn out, and you're like, oh, they want document after document after document, as if it's almost like a conspiracy not to give out bonds to foreigners. But I have done a few transactions with foreigners through the banking system, but mostly it's guys that are actually based in South Africa. Some of them have got citizenship. It makes it easier to grant them bonds. But cash is king, man.
So basically what you're saying is, if a Nigerian has interest in a South African property and they bring cash, like full payments, they can easily get access to buying property without having any issues.
Very easy. I've done a lot of those. Very, very, very easy. There's no struggle. There's no issues. They can't ask anything because you're buying cash, So we use their passports as a form of identification and proof of res. Even if you are not based in South Africa, I've done a lot of transactions with guys who have actually not even seen the property that they're buying. I think I've managed to entrench myself in the space such that even trust me. I will go and do viewings on behalf of my buyers who are based in Nigeria or somewhere around the world, and I will view on their behalf and give them feedback and say, look, I would buy it if I were you. The price is good, and they would do it. And guys would come and view after long having purchased it, and it's a trust thing. Real estate is all about trust at the end of the day.
True, that's very true. So another question I have also is, for a lot of people who want to invest, what are the return rates of investing? Like, if, let's say I was buying a property for 1 million or 1.5 million rand, what is the return rate for somebody who is interested in buying maybe lots of properties and getting into property investment in South Africa?
So basically, you are talking about the yield,
Yeah, the yield.
As an investor, so if you're investing in a property, you want a certain kind of yield. And normally with property, yield is really based on where that property is. So area plays a role in terms of that, because renting out a property in Bryanston versus renting out a property in Randburg, the same property in Randburg, you won't get the same rental income because the area average is different. The value of the area varies. And so a lot of guys will obviously work out that yield, because remember, yield is a percentage of the income versus the expenses on that particular property. So it depends with areas, but I know a lot of guys want a very good yield. As an investor, if I'm going to be paying a bond on a property for 10,000 Rand and I've got levies and rates to pay of another 1,000 Rand, that's 11,000 Rand. If I can get a rental of 15,000 Rand, the difference between the 15 and the 11, that's the yield. And you work it out as a percentage. So it all depends on the investor, where they are in their stage of investing. Some guys will go in at a 4% yield, and some guys will go in at a 10% yield. So it all depends where you are from that part of the process.
Okay, awesome. Another question also is, since many of my viewers are Nigerian, there's this thing about this Nigeria and South Africa issue that we always have. So what are your thoughts generally? Because I know a lot of people are always hesitating whenever they hear South Africa. When I even do videos on South Africa, people are like, South Africa, Xenophobia and all that. But as somebody who is actually there, do you think that affects investing if you want to buy property in South Africa generally?
It does. There's no investor that wants to put in money into a hole. No one wants to throw money into a hole. So if there's a perception that in South Africa there's always xenophobic attacks, then obviously as an investor, you're not going to want to invest in an area like that. For all you know, they might burn your place down because you're Nigerian. And I guess that's our responsibility, me and you. That's why we're doing this collaboration, to prove to the world and to people, especially South Africans and Nigerians, that we are all Africans. Why can't we work together? Why can't we respect each other's differences as Africans? At the end of the day, we cannot forget the fact that Nigerians have always been supportive when South Africa was going through apartheid. So why is it now that we've got our democracy that we think that we are better than our own brothers who are Africans? I think we need to change that perception, and I think this collaboration that you and I are getting into is exactly a great example of how a South African and a Nigerian can put together their minds and do great work, irrespective of their upbringing or where they're from. This is not about the fact that I'm South African and that you're Nigerian. It's about the fact that we are African, and we need to celebrate that. I mean, this is Africa Month anyway, and we should not just celebrate Africa Month because it's May. We should celebrate each other as Africans every day and embrace each other. Because the rest of the world, the Chinese, the Americans, they all celebrate each other. I mean, if you look at the US, I mean, the United States has got 52 states, and yet they are united as states, right? They have one currency, which is the dollar. Why can't we one day have one African currency? You know what I mean? Like for me, I dream of the day when all the countries in Africa use one currency that the world will have to subscribe to. I don't know if that's something that we'll see in our lifetime, but that's something that I wish someday happens.
True. I totally agree with that. If we have one currency, it makes like everything stronger.
If you think about it, without having to sound American, we are actually the United States of Africa. If you think about it, we are.
True.
All these beautiful countries in Africa, one day will, like, I just wish. But do you think that'll happen in our lifetime? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Think about talking about Africa generally. I know, before they used to leave Africa out of the picture. But now I think gradually the world is beginning to sort of focus on Africa. I know some people are doing it for their own personal gains, but people are beginning to understand that Africa is the next best thing like that is going to happen. Like Africa is the future. So what do you think generally about like investing in Africa? As I'm sure you're an African and you've invested a lot of your resources and time investing in building Africa. So what do you think about investing in Africa generally?
Look, it doesn't get better than Africa, bro. It doesn't get better than Africa. We've got all the minerals here. And that's why the world is always wanting to do business with Africa. That's why the United States wants to do business with Africa. That's why the Chinese want to do business with Africa, because we've got the minerals that the rest of the world would never even dream of having. From the kind of soil that we have in Africa, the kind of weather we have in Africa. A lot of people come to Africa just for the weather. You know what I mean?
True.
So for me, those minerals and resources that we have need to be treasured, and we need to trade with those as our IP as Africa. So if I had to tell any potential investor around the world in terms of where they need to invest, I would definitely say in Africa, because Africa is the future. You know, there's so much potential that has never been, unleashed in Africa.
From my own perspective, I think South Africa has some of the most beautiful houses that I've seen in Africa. Being unbiased, you think South Africa has the best real estate market in Africa?
I've been to probably on average about 15 different countries in and around Africa, and South Africa stands out. And I'm not just saying that because I'm South African.
I'm agree.
Saying that
I agree.
Yeah, I'm saying that from a real estate point of view, we've got some world-class properties that even match properties in LA, in Hollywood. I mean, if you go to Cape Town, for example, the kind of properties that are there in Camps Bay, Hout Bay, it's out of this world. Some of the properties that most foreigners, in terms of travelers, when they go to Cape Town, with what they experience there, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you look at like Sandhurst in Johannesburg, Hyde Park, those are like luxury areas, that have some of the most incredible properties. So yeah, hands down, South Africa still stands out as one of the best in terms of having luxury properties. In fact, around the world, not just in Africa.
Yeah, around
they can take on other properties around the world. I mean, I've been to LA, I've been to different states in the US, and I've seen the kind of homes and properties that are out there. But yes, South Africa can, if you had to profile like the top 50 best luxury homes around the world, I can safely say 5 will feature from South Africa, without a shadow of doubt.
Can you just give us a brief run through of how you started and how you got to this point where you are, so that people can have an understanding that when it comes to real estate in South Africa, you are the go-to person?
Man, it wasn't an easy journey. I started from the bottom. This is about 7 years ago, 2014. 6 years ago. I started as an intern. So you work as an intern and you work for someone else, and that's where you learn the ropes about real estate. And you do that for a year, and then after that year, you write a board exam. And if you pass that board exam, then you can start your own agency. And then after that, you write a second board exam, the principal. So for me, it was just a matter of focusing on the learnings around the space, understanding the industry, understanding the people, but most importantly, understanding the legal part of real estate. Real estate is all about legal, because you're signing contracts, you're signing offers, there's clauses, there's addendums, there's a lot of legal stuff and jargon that happens. And if you don't understand that, you'll find yourself, in trouble with the law. And that's something that I always try and tell people who want to get into real estate, that real estate is not just about flashing beautiful homes. It's about the detail when you sign an offer with a client, because that's going to determine whether you're going to make money from that deal or not. And so, but you got to be passionate about it. It's not an industry that you can just do for the fun of it. It's not an industry that you can get into just for part-time purposes, like over weekends, because I get a lot of people saying, I want to do it over weekends. You can't do that, man. It's a full-time job, because you're engaging with different buyers and sellers all the time. But yeah, man, 6 years down the line, I'm one of the top 5 realtors in South Africa. And obviously, my goal is to be number 1 in Africa. Number 1, dog.
Word. That's the ginger. That's the hustle. I love that.
No one remembers number 2.
Nobody remembers number 2. Nobody remembers number 2. What's the average amount of entry? Is it 1 million rand or is it 500,000 rand?
Okay.
Of buying property.
It depends. It all depends on the area. Okay. There are areas where you can buy property for 400,000 rand. That's like in the townships. You can get a smaller house or whatever there for like 400, 500,000 rand. And then you can go all the way up to 100 million rand. So it all depends on the area. You know what I mean? So I can't say the minimum is 1 million
A
because that
minimum,
would be
okay.
untrue. Because each area has an average in terms of the selling price, you know. But I know for a fact you won't buy an apartment for like 200,000 rand. I've never heard of any apartment going for like 200,000 rand.
Okay, so what we are looking at is you can actually get a property, an okay property for let's say like $30,000.
Yeah.
$30,000 upwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on
Okay.
you know this thing they always talk about, house flipping, where you buy like a rundown property, and what are your thoughts on it in South Africa?
It's a big market, but it's a market that requires cash, man. You gotta have the cash flow. You can't be in the flipping business and still depending on money from the bank, because that means that you are not able to churn the properties quick enough for you to make money and churn the next property. If you're gonna try and go the banking route, maybe when you start off with the first property, you can do that and flip. But with flipping, you need cash. You need cash to be able to react to the market. So if I've got, for example, 1 million rands, and I'm able to flip a property with 500,000 rands, and I've got 500,000 rands just like as a backup, and I'm able to flip that property quickly and make another 500,000 rand profit, and then bank it with the other 500,000 that I'd saved. That's another million, right?
Yeah.
You flip another one, and you need to have cash flow to be able to react. Sometimes you try and you flip a property and no one wants to buy it. Now you're stuck with this property. But if you've got cash, then you can afford to put in someone to rent in the meantime, while also trying to recuperate. But if you are tied to the bank, then you're screwed, because now the money is tied. You have to pay the bank that loan back, but you don't have a tenant to service it. So you gotta have cash, man.
What do you have to say to like a lot of young people who are like coming up, who want to go into real estate, and who are trying to like get into real estate generally in Africa, not just South Africa or Nigeria? What do you have to say as somebody who has built a big real estate business in Africa? What do you have to say to them?
So the one advice I can give to anyone, whether it's real estate or any other industry, is do your research, man. Nothing beats research, bro. Because then if you don't understand the market you're getting yourself into, and you don't know what the pros and cons of that market, you're gonna fail. And that's what I did. I spent 2 years just researching the real estate industry, reading up on it. I mean, the information is out there. Going on Google, Googling stuff, researching, talking to a few people, making a few phone calls. Just being inquisitive is gonna get you everywhere in life, because then you'll want to seek information. And that applies to any industry, irrespective of real estate.
True. Thanks a lot for agreeing to come on this call. Thanks a lot. So if you guys are interested in like getting real estate in South Africa, I'm going to link his Instagram below, and you can always contact him.
Yeah, they must follow Mzansi Cribs, man.
Mzansi
and tell them about the stuff we're gonna be doing, man. Tell them that we're gonna shut ish down, man. People are not gonna understand what's about to hit them, and that's what it's about. I'm all about collaborations, man. If you can't collaborate in business, sustainability is going to be an issue for you, because you got to partner with other people who are great in what they're doing as well. And that's what you and I are about to get into.
Yeah, that's true. Guys, I do a lot of house tours. So we're going to be doing a lot of house tours, and we're going to be showing you a lot of properties in South Africa generally. Yeah. We're going to be doing a lot of property tours. I'm going to be showing some of the most expensive, some of the most luxurious, some of the baddest properties.
Everything, man. Quality.
Yeah. I even totally agree that you guys, in terms of the properties I've seen here, you guys have, in terms of building materials, I can attest to the quality of the materials and properties in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's really
nice one, my brother.
Yeah.
Nice one, my brother. Looking forward to seeing you soon, eh?
Yeah, sure. After the lockdown.
After the lockdown, you and I unlock everything.
Yeah, sure.
Nice one, Teo.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Cheers, my brother.
Yeah, cheers. So that was the call with TTMbha. Is one of the main people in terms of real estate in South Africa. So I just thought I would just do that and give you guys a rundown on property and real estate in South Africa. I've done a lot of real estate videos so that you guys can understand how it goes down here. I'm going to link his Instagram below. Follow him on Instagram. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button if you like this video and if you want to see more property tours. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.